Okay, for today's Sciencemancy, let's do a mix of sociobiology and neurobiology. Because I was reading this cool feature article in Nature called Neuroscience Goes Wild, and it's about researchers using more naturalistic approaches. Instead of having mice push levers and swim water mazes and stuff that they don't do in the real world, they simply watch them do more realistic things, or like have things like a fake owl fly over them and see how their brain lights up. And so the thing I want to focus on is an idea that fell out of favor that found some evidence, and it's about aggression and the hypothalamus. So this idea first came from the famous Austrian ethologist Konrad Lorenz, who is very famous for his ethology. It's also fairly famous he was in the Nazi Party, and then spent the rest of his life saying that he regretted it. But despite that, his work is still very influential in this field. And he had an idea that he won the Nobel Prize for, that he shared with a guy named Tinbergen, that the internal signals of aggression in an animal or a person build up until they finally tip over into action. And some critics thought that this model was overly simplistic, lacked a neurobiological basis, and didn't account for learning. And so in this article, they talk about a researcher named Kennedy and her colleagues, and they found evidence for this process in mice. When a mouse interacted with another, a group of neurons in the hypothalamus of the brain gradually ramped up activity to a level that correlated with what the animal did. At low levels, the animals might freeze or ignore the other mouse. But as levels built up over 10 seconds, it started to show signs of aggression, such as trying to mount the other mouse, with pretty aggressive. And at high levels, mice began to attack others outright. And so these neurons seem to function like a volume dial for aggression. And what's more, I thought this was very interesting, the levels vary between mice. And so when some creatures would almost never attack, others were quick to do so. And so we have a hypothalamic volume for aggression that we see in mice, and you probably see in some of the people that you know as well.